Have you ever had someone try to give you directions, only to have no clue where they were sending you? That's because not only do people communicate differently, we also think differently, and that influences how we speak, listen, and interact with each other. Scientists used to think of human communication as a skill that was learned as we grow up. They viewed babies as blank slates that acted like sponges to absorb language and communication. However, we now know that thanks to hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, the brain is a highly complex organ that is predisposed to communicate. And the way your brain has been wired will influence how you interact. That's why siblings can grow up in the same house with the same parents and be so totally different. In the late 1800s, two researchers discovered areas of the brain that controlled our language. These came to be known as Broca's and Wernicke's areas. But words are only part of our communication. We also use body language such as gestures and facial expressions to convey meaning to others. And new research suggests that this has more to do with how a brain is wired than the way we were raised. The brain is divided into four major lobes: the frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. And each lobe plays an important role in how we think. These also play a role in how we interact with others. Thanks to new technologies that are allowing scientists to peer inside the human brain, we're starting to get a clearer picture of how our complex brain shapes the way we interact with others. 100 years ago, brain scientists could only look at the brain after someone was done using it. Today, with brain scanners like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, we can actually see what the brain is doing while a person is thinking, listening, or talking. This allows us to gain a much greater understanding of what's going on when we communicate. Let's say that you wanted to give someone directions to get from your house to a nearby restaurant. There is a part of the brain that controls the way you think about physical spaces, and this will influence how you give directions. You could tell the person to head north for 3/4 of a mile and turn west, or you could tell them to turn when they see the big tree on the corner. Or you could even draw them a map. Unfortunately, what works best for one person isn't always what works best for others. That's why some of us prefer to print out Google Maps, while others prefer the turn-by-turn directions they offer. There are several areas of the brain at work here. We have regions in our parietal lobe that seem to control spatial organization, and other regions in our occipital lobe that relate to how we imagine where we're going. Some of us are really great at visual imagination, and others not so much. On the extreme end of the spectrum is a disorder that seems to affect less than 1% of the population, called aphantasia, where a person cannot make mental images. When people who are different come together to work on a project, it's going to be challenging to really understand each other. This area of research is quite new, and right now we don't know a great deal about the relationship between communication and the brain. But thanks to new science and technologies, we are learning more every day. In the future, we will continue to better understand why people are so different and how we can better connect with each other. So remember, if you have ever tried to communicate with someone but had trouble really connecting, it may just be because your brains are so different. That doesn't mean we can't figure it out, but it does mean there isn't one right way to communicate. We are all unique, and that's a good thing.